Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Last video here on the post frame build was hanging trusses. We got those done and that's a great relief, but what it means now is we've got to do a lot of bracing. We need to get our permanent bracing in our walls. We've got our corner bracing to do. We've got our wind ties to do up on the bottom cord. We've got our kickers to do, which are our diagonal bracing up in the roof structure. And then we've also got grade board to put on. So we've got a bunch of additional framing that we will do once we get done with our last wall section. So we've got a garage door. We've got a 24 by 14 garage door that we need to frame up. And once we get all that done, the walls will be completed and we'll move into permanent bracing. So we're gonna start this video off with just some footage of the bracing going in. I'm not gonna go into super detail on the permanent bracing. I've done a lot of that in the past and maybe we'll do it again in the future if people are still a little confused on it. Make sure you drop a comment down below if you want me to do more permanent bracing content on maybe the next build, but we're gonna kind of blow through this. I don't feel like it's a super gratifying thing to look at. So we'll get this done and then we can move into, I'm thinking probably this video will go towards either window framing, door framing, or overhang framing. So let's get into this. So this morning, first thing Greg and I did was we went through the lumber pile. We got out all the lumber that we need, set up on some sawhorses for the framing that we're gonna do this morning. And looks like Greg's got the Festool HKC out. It's a great tool for making quick straight cuts. Nice job, Greg. You got covered up. Why you got your hood on?
Bug.
So long sleeves are for the bugs and not the sun necessarily?
A little bit for the sun, but mainly the bugs.
All right.
They be bugging me.
The bugs be bugging?
Bugs be bugging.
All right, man. All right, so wind ties, if you're new to this, the wind tie is this guy here that comes across the middle. We did put one of those in during the install of the trusses to hold the bottom cord stiff. And then you see these chains that are on the walls. Right now, they are our X bracing on our walls, holding them, I guess giving us our shear so that they don't fall over. And when we come through with our wood framed X braces, we're gonna do that in a corner. So I'll do this corner bay and that corner bay. And then what I'll probably do is come down here and I'll also do those two corner bays. Now I nailed this first corner brace up and I was like, oh crap, I better make sure that these walls are plumb. So I'm just gonna grab my plate level real quick and just verify that these are sitting plumb, and it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep going, but definitely you don't wanna make that mistake. Frame this off in a manner that you think it's plumb, lock it in, and then it's not plumb. Because that would be called having to do rework, and rework is not fun. Gotta do a little cutout there. Okay, got a bolt in our way. Just want to cut that off. Because we're doubling this X, it doesn't sit flush to the girts. The second one doesn't, so I put a block down at the bottom, and that gives me the 1.5 inch separation that I need. Let's go ahead and do this side before we jump up in the lift. All right, time to bring the lift in and do the second tier. All right. I'm out of nails. I need more nails, but I think you get the picture. So this double X is a lot stronger than just running one board, which I see all the time, from the grade board up to the top in just a long angle. The closer you can get these angles in your bracing to 45, the stronger it's going to be. So as that angle increases, it's easier for the wind to push the building over. So these are permanent X braces. The double X is kind of a standard for us because I think on a tall wall, it's definitely a lot stronger. The only stronger shear wall that you can do is a full plywood bay, which we will do that as well sometimes, but I think it's a little overkill for this size of a building. All right, that's corner bracing. So pretty simple. The math is a little bit tricky until you get the hang of it, and maybe someday I'll do a dedicated video on just figuring out how to cut those angles and get them perfect, because the tighter those angles are, the stronger it is. So it is important to have good tight angles. You can just put your board up there, make some scribe marks and try to cut it, but that's a lot of work compared to just going on your calculator, doing a couple math equations, and then getting the exact dimensions and angles, and then just cutting them all at once, and then doing the install. So, all right, I think we're about ready for overhangs, framing our soffits and fascia. So let's do it. Up and away. Jeez, who parked this thing? Oh, yeah. Here's what your boy's gonna do. And this is what's gonna set us off to do good things. Great things, actually. All right, so these are two steel I-beams. We got them from actually one of our suppliers. He had them laying around, bought some old pallet racking, and I was like, dude, I need some beams. He was like, I got a couple. So I bought them from him, and we've always been meaning to build a pallet rack for our steel. So if you've ever wondered, like this is my building here is a 60-foot wide building, and in order to get those sheets of steel up there, they're about 34 feet long. You gotta either do it what I would say a very redneck way of like maybe lifting them up from the ground. They're probably going to get scratched, kinked, or you bring the steel up and work at height off of a pile of steel, which is what we've always done with our telehandler. But our old pallet was made of wood. It was super rotted, and we've been reinforcing it, and finally we picked up these beams for the last job we did to reinforce it, and now we're going to go ahead and build a new pallet. So first thing we got to do, since we don't have machinery, and that's why Greg took his shirt off and has a tank top, because he wants to show off for you guys all of his muscles, is get those beams up on this trailer so that we can build the pallet and then take it to the job site where we have a machine to take it off and start our roofing. So, all right, muscle boy, are you ready?
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that we are going to do is, I think it's an old Egyptian way. We're going to lift an end up. Greg, come over here, muscles. Lift that end up, my guy. Okay. Now, if muscles goes to the other end, Come on, Muscles. Look at this. I'm gonna put the camera down and help Muscles get this up and get the other one up on the trailer. Okay, let's go this way. We don't want to have to cross paths. Two. Look with your back, not your legs. Okay, ready? Ready? That's effortless, dude. Okay, that was actually pretty easy. So we've got the beams on the trailer. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna try a little bit of a different design. Instead of what we were thinking of doing was taking, similar to our old design of wood post and structure, I guess pallet, and with this metal, these top flanges are not very thin. So we were originally thinking of using some self-tappers and putting lumber across the top. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna create boxes out of wood. Those are gonna go around the beam, and what it's gonna allow us to do, I think, is we'll be able to put the bottom one on. We kind of need to build it with the sides too, so we can screw up, right? So we'll make like little U's, and then we'll slide those underneath the beams, get them placed in, and then we'll cap it on the top and fill in the middle so that the beam basically can't go, the beams won't go anywhere. So we're not gonna necessarily do a ton of securing to the beams, maybe a couple lag screws through. We'll do a couple drilled holes, but I wanna limit that because drilling through this steel, we've already done it. Right here. We did it on the old beam, or the old pallet, I should say, 6 times, and it's some major drilling. But I do have a brand new set of Diablo Step Bits, and I'm thinking these might come in handy. So I hope. All right, let's go ahead and build our boxes, get our dimensions, and then we'll put it together. We'll see. I don't know, guys. What do you think? This, I think this is definitely what they would call jerry-rigging. I mean, this is redneck engineering at its finest. I probably need to just have somebody build me one of these. If somebody knows a great place or a good source for something like what we're building here, and if you don't know what we're building yet, stay tuned because we will show you this in action. Let me know down below in the comments. We've done this a bunch of different ways, and I think that this is going to be based on what we've done in the past. I think it's going to work out just fine. So we've got 1 down, we got 4 more to go, and then like I said, I'm thinking a piece of maybe some 3/4 legacy subfloor all the way around this, nailed every 4 inches or so. It'll just laminate all these together as one, and then those beams can't go anywhere. So all right, let's go ahead and let's get the other 4 made.
Same thing.
This one's got a longer way to go because
We'll get it though.
we'll get it though. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Throw another one in the middle.
Yeah, just to keep it from. All right, now that we have these all together, what we're gonna do is kind of laminate this piece of plywood. This is gonna seal this all off. It's gonna keep it nice and tight. And I think, once again, we're not engineers here. I think it's going to keep it nice and strong, which is the important thing. So we're using some structural framing screws again, just some little shorties, 2 inchers. And you like it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm just gonna put a bunch in here. About every 4 inches or so. That's a good, solid. That's solid, dude. That ain't going nowhere. All right, well, we got our goal accomplished. It was to build this steel pallet. And while I don't know that it's completely done, we're gonna try to maybe do some extensions. So you can see right here how we've got these pockets, a 2x6 or 2x7, or sorry, I don't think a 2x8, I think just a 2x6 will fit in here. And so if we take like some 16-foot lumber, stick it in back there, it will be wedged into this I-beam. And then what we can do is just cut a little pocket right here, take our router and just run right around the beam and the wood, cut a pocket out so that we can have an extension. And the reason we would do that is because this is a 20-foot pallet and our steel length for this build is 34 feet. So if we center it on this pallet, it's gonna be hanging 7 feet-ish, because it's just under 34 feet, about 7 feet-ish on both sides. Now, I think that will be okay without any issues, but if we can put a little extension out the end just to support a little bit of that weight, I think it will be advantageous to us from a comfort standpoint. So we're gonna go ahead and haul this to site tomorrow morning, and we shall, I guess we'll see how this does when we get it loaded up. So let's go ahead and I'll see you guys in the morning. All right, so metal plank on site. Here it is. That is what we just got done building yesterday and we brought to site. We got the first load up. This is the first you guys are going to see it, and we're ready to go. Greg has the mega deck, and we can just very easily put this thing up. It is going to perform exceptional. When we put that steel on there, it didn't even flex. Super strong, super well built. It's going to be perfect for what we need it on, which is this 34-foot sheet metal roof. And yeah, now it's time to go ahead and get this installed. All right, so just to recap, step 1, make sure that your walls are plumb. Step 2, made sure that our fascia was straight. Step 3, we made sure that our peak was square to our fascia. So that's probably the most important thing, because you can fix straightness. You can't fix out of square very easily if you don't do it from the beginning. And then now step 4 was we just made sure that our end wall was straight and then rechecked our square. What that means now is we are ready for our steel roof. So if you follow those steps, if you make sure things are plumb, straight, and square, your roof install will be much easier. But there's one more thing that I think has nothing to do with squaring or straightening out or any of that stuff. It is the prep in the layout. So this roof is, the building is 64 foot long. We have 2-foot overhangs, which means we have a 68-foot roof. 68 is not divisible by 3. It is not divisible by 9 inches, which means you will not have a rib line up on both ends perfectly. Now, we have a porch on this build. We want to make sure a bunch of things work with rib layout. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a center of our rib 2 feet in from the end. So this is a 2-foot overhang, which means we're going to start with a rib centered right on the edge of the building. And that's going to allow our sidewall steel to have a rib on the edge of the building, and our porch to have a rib on the edge of the building, and our miter in the porch to line up rib to rib right where that all comes together. So we're thinking about not just this, we're thinking about the last step of the project, which is like, let's say, the porch roof. It all matters, layout matters, so we're gonna make sure that we start with our perfect layout on the roof so that everything down the road also can line up with those ribs and look good. So with the layout, what I'm gonna do is make sure that I've got that first sheet where we want it, which had the 3-inch cutoff. And then I'm gonna lay out every 3 foot from there, which we're at 5'10", so 8'10", and then I'm also marking back 1 inch so I know where to put my filler strips. 11'10", and now that I have my marks down, we've got our foam filler strips, and we're just gonna, these have a stickiness to them. These are gonna keep, you know, wind-driven rain, snow, stuff like that from working up from the bottom. I think it's a good add. Otherwise, your soffits and stuff can get filled with snow. So these just kind of go together. And remember, I've got my my mark here, that is the edge of the steel, and then this was the center of the steel, and that's so I could place these guys right where they belong. And now we've got the filler strips. I got my marks, so I know where my sheets lay out to. Greg is up top marking his, and we've got our steel just sitting here. First one bent up. That's that 6-inch rib that we talked about, and then we're ready to go. Look at that though, man. That pallet is looking good. Just gotta spit on it, dude. Just taking some of that dirt off, okay? Give me another one. Good. Yeah, buddy. Nice. All right. First sheet of steel up. Honestly, from there, it's a lot of repetition. Slide up, move over, screw down. Not a whole lot of complication because we've already spent the time doing all the hard work, which was squaring, leveling, plumbing, making sure things are dimensionally accurate, and laying out all of our steel. So Greg's gonna come down, he's gonna put a mark on every purlin so we know where the purlins are later, because we're not gonna mess around putting all the screws in. We're gonna lay the roof out, then we come back and efficiently install all of the screws at once. It just means for a long afternoon usually, but it's good to get the steel up as quick as possible, installed while the weather's good, while the building's where you want it, and everything like that. All right. Huh? So easy. So easy a post framer can do it. And what I've got going on is that when I measure this leading edge and I'm at 1.5 inches, I can come back and I'm also at 1.5 inches here. So by making sure that this was all square when I started, it's gonna allow me to not have any jag. Like, look at this. This is exactly flush with each other and they both measure 1.5 inches. So as I go down the wall, I keep an 1.5 inch measurement here, and I should, if I'm staying square, and if my fascia is straight, I should stay perfect here. And if it's not perfect, but I am 1.5 inches, then it tells me that I'm either in or out on that fascia, and we can correct that ever so slightly by pushing and pulling the sheets once we've fastened the bottom row. Okay. All right, so now we've got one side of roof laid out and worked out good. We got our rib right up the edge like we wanted to, and now we just got to screw it all off, and that takes a little bit of time. So we're just going to go ahead and do that, and then we move over to the other side and get that prepped for a roof. I mean, remember when I ran that whole soffit fascia, everything? I went up in the lift one time and I did one around the whole thing. Do you remember that? Yeah, that 60 by 88. Yeah, I just never forget that. I just remember, like, I put everything up in the lift by myself. So from your guys' angle, you might be able to see the joints in the fascia. That's because most people are going to be on this side over here looking this way. So we always try to run our joints over top of each other from the dominant visual side, which is the house. So you can see the joints, but you won't see them from there, and nobody's going to see them actually once the gutter is installed. So unfortunately, we were shorted some soffit material. So that's why you see us not running the soffit through this section here, which means we can't run our fascia, but we still want to run this here. Also, guys, give Greg a thumbs up just for this. The dude's trying to protect his neck. Turn around, Greg. Let's everybody see how well you protect your neck. Oh, it's pretty good, yeah. So, I mean, it decently protects his neck because it's getting kind of red, but good for him. Instead of putting sunblock on, just using this Ingenuitive t-shirt.
Sunblock will give you cancer.
I probably will, yeah.
All those chemicals.
I don't know where I was going with that, guys, other than our soffit's getting this delivered tomorrow. So we'll be able to run that, but we want to get this top trim on so we can run our steel first thing tomorrow morning on this side of the roof. We might even have a special guest, so stay tuned. You centered, Cole? Are you centered on the... Okay, so this first little bend up here is important because in our layout, our first sheet's only going to be 2 foot of coverage instead of 3 foot. So we rip this off. We don't have a rib in our gable trim if we don't do this. So because this was cut flat, what we do is we just bend it up, and this is going to create an area for if water comes underneath our trims, it can run down the roof instead of around the roof into the frame of the building. So this is important. If you don't have a rib underneath your trim, do a bend up, and those rollers are great. They're not cheap, but if you do this enough, they pay for themselves in time because hand bending them up is absolutely miserable. Oh man, that is solid. No issues. One whole side of a 60 by 64 shed, all the metal, 20 some sheets, picked up like a dream. So now that pallet has allowed us to get our metal up there. We'll take the lift up and we'll start pulling the sheets across. So as you can see, now that the plank is up here at working height, we can just slide these sheets off. And you may be wondering about scratches. So we've learned that as long as you don't let an edge run along the panel, you're pretty good. So when you're sliding it, you know, you're creating a cushion of air. And when Greg pulls this up, I let it stay on the sheet because as soon as if I lift it up, I start to introduce maybe some friction on the other end. So we just kind of let this thing run on some air. Are you ready to go? Okay. And then once we get to the edge, I'm going to run it onto the edge of the rib and pick it up. And then when it's running across the roof, it's running on the bottom of the panel. So no sharp edges are going on the roof, which is what you want to do to obviously not have any scratches. Don't make me change my mind. All right, we got the roof laid. So both sides laid. We got Cole's help today, that helped out, sped some processes up, and now we're gonna start all the long and daunting process of installing about, I don't know, I think yesterday when I did the other side, I used 5 bags of these screws. I think there's 250 per, so it's really not that bad. It's only a 64 foot long roof, 60 wide. And when you got a couple people going at it, it goes pretty quick. So probably the end of the video, guys, for this. So roof installed, we've got a porch roof to do, so it's not all the roofing done, but the main structure's done. And make sure you guys subscribe if it's something that you're interested in. I know these videos here, this video specifically wasn't the best because my camera guy was off, and it's been a while since I've had to set things up. So definitely smash that thumbs up and drop a comment on how much you appreciate having Michael doing the camera instead of me having to do it and get to work, because I think that he's able to capture so much more since I'm literally trying to work, you know? I'm trying to physically do the job, and it's hard to have the camera going all the time, getting all the angles. So definitely, if you've been enjoying the videos, make sure you let them know down below in the comments. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this done. We'll throw up some drone footage of the roofs, but that'll be this video, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out, have a good one, and we'll see you on the next one.